The views and ideas presented on this program are those of the people who express them. That will be mostly me. They do not in any way, shape, or form represent those of Sky Cable 13, Telemedia, and or its employees, okay? I'm about to ride. It's the KLH Show, starring me, KLH. I'm telling you, you better hold on to something. Let's go! What is going on, Waterbearers? Me, your man KLH, back in your TV screen, here to save the world 30 minutes at a time. Yeah. I know that you have plenty of good viewing choices out there, and you made this choice, and I appreciate you for that choice. Well, I'm talking about choices. And it's something that I spoke about in the past, but I felt like I could add some more to the topic, and so here we go again. Choices, choices, choices. Why choices? Well, choices, I believe, are the building blocks of our lives. I think that if you added up the choices of any person, that the sum total would be the quality of their life, be it a good quality or a bad quality. I think that choices determine everything about the quality of our life, and even in many instances, the length of our life can be determined by the choices that we make. Now, I know that people may agree, disagree, whatever, and that's perfectly fine, but hear me out and see what I have to say about this situation. People who make consistently great choices have consistently great lives. They live in great houses, they have great jobs, they have great relationships, they drive great cars. The quality of their life is a direct reflection of the quality of their choices. Now, the opposite is true with people who make bad choices. They have bad jobs, or they're in and out of jobs, they're in and out of bad relationships. Things just never seem to go quite right for people who consistently make bad choices. So the quality of our lives, again, is a reflection of the quality of our decisions. And if you were to peel back the shell, the skin on any person, you could see clearly how they got to where they are based on the choices that they have made. Now, I know that there will be people again who disagree with this premise, but I would bet that every single one of those people that disagrees would be people whose lives are not going that well. And the thing is, when things aren't going well for us, it's so much easier to blame someone or something outside of ourselves for where we are at. Now, I want to be clear. I am saying that our choices can determine the quality of our lives. I am not saying that our choices can determine every single event in our lives. It is true that time and unforeseen occurrences can befall us all. A bad thing can happen to anybody regardless of choices that you make. But a bad quality of life doesn't just happen to people. Life quality is built. If it's a high quality or a poor quality, lives are built based on the choices that we make. I'm going to go in deeper. Let's go. Okay, so people whose lives are not going that well oftentimes blame exterior forces, either people or things or conditions or events or something outside of themselves for whatever conditions are within their lives. So again, they're blaming exterior things for what is happening in their lives. You might say they are externally referenced, okay? Again, it's people, things, conditions, events outside of themselves that determine where they are in their lives. I'm sure you've heard people many times say, well, my boyfriend holds me back, or my wife holds me back, or this person did such and such a thing to me, and because of that, I can't get a shot and I can't get ahead. That's all external referencing. People whose lives are successful are the opposite. They believe that hard work and sacrifice and aligning themselves with helpful people are what leads to their success. You'd be hard pressed to find a successful person who blames anything other than choices they themselves have made for their success. These people are internally referenced. There's a very stark difference. And the benefit to this kind of thinking is that you can always change your internal thoughts, right? You always have complete control over your internal thoughts. However, you can never change another person's thoughts. You can never change external events, or it's much more difficult to change external events, and you certainly can't change other people's thoughts. So to focus your attention in ways and in places that don't serve your need robs you of your power. When you are saying to yourself that it is other people and other conditions that determine the quality of your life, you are destined to be in a place of failure. You must take responsibility for your lives. In fact, we all must take responsibility for our lives. And I'd like to look a little bit closer at that word responsibility. You might say, and I've heard someone put it this way that I think really hits the nail on the head, that responsibility is our ability to choose our response. And I'd like to suggest to you that the quality of your life is your responsibility. Now, that may be hard to accept if things aren't going very well for you. If the recession has its fist in the small of your back and is beating you down, or if it's choking the life out of you, you may find it hard to believe and accept that it's your responsibility for where you are in life. And yet, that is exactly the case. And the power in being able to choose your response to these circumstances is that you can make better choices, right? You can choose better responses to things that happen. And I want you to know that you can always make a better choice. You can always make a better response. You can always choose a better response. And these choices that you make can empower you, or they can drain the power away from you. It's all up to you. Even our feelings are a matter of choice. And a lot of times we may want to deny that. We may think that, well, I feel this way because this person did that to me, or I feel this way that this person did this for me, right? But our feelings are a choice, and I want to illustrate that to you. Okay, so I want to give you an example of how our feelings are a matter of choice and not connected or not caused by external factors, people or events or whatever. This example, I've changed it up a bit, but it was something that I heard Wayne Dyer talk about in a different context. So here it is. Imagine on the morning of 9/11, 2001, and there is a motivational speaker who's getting ready to go out and give a presentation. He's very hyped up, he's feeling powerful, he's feeling like he's going to go out and give this awesome presentation. And then somebody comes up to him and says, "Have you heard?" He's like, what? Two planes flew into the Twin Towers, and the towers crashed down, and thousands of people are presumed to be dead. And you can imagine the speaker's powerful, positive attitude just disappears. And right as he gets all this news, he's called to go out onto stage. And rather than this hyped up, powerful, awesome opening that he had planned, he decides to ask the audience a question. He feels like this is a teachable moment. And so he says how sad he feels about this event. And then he asks the audience, why do you suppose I'm sad? And quite understandably, quite expectedly, someone stands up in the audience and says, you're sad because the planes flew into the tower and thousands of people have most likely been killed. And he suggests to them, if I was sad because the planes hit, then I would have been sad before I was told about the planes. Think about that. If it really was the event of the planes striking the tower, then soon as the plane struck, he would have felt sad, and yet that wasn't the case. What was the case was he was only sad once he was told about the planes hitting. Then he formulates in his head and he feels sad. Now you may be, excuse me, you may be wondering what this has to do with what I'm talking about. If a condition or an event or whatever else, a person, whatever, were the thing that determined your feelings, then soon as those things happen, your feelings will come about. And yet that is not at all what happens. What does happen is you make a choice, right? We hear about an event or an action, and at that moment we choose how to feel about it. Now a lot of times we're conditioned to feel certain ways about certain things, but still it's a choice. I'm sure we have all seen people who react very differently than what you might expect when you hear about an event. I'm sure we have heard about people who have been told that a loved one has passed away, and they don't have any external displays of grief or sadness or shock. Or we've seen people who respond the opposite, where it seems like their response is way over what is normal. Fact of the matter is, people choose their responses. Now, I'm not suggesting that feeling sad when a horrible things happen is inappropriate. I'm pointing out the mechanics of what really happens when our feelings are displayed. Our feelings are a choice, and we can use that fact to our advantage. So it really comes down to this. It comes down to responsibility. That is the ability to choose our response. This is power. It might not seem like it sometimes when life has thrown a curveball at us, but this is power. But only if we are aware of it and we use that power well. Throughout the day, every day of our lives, we are faced with opportunities to make choices. And the choices that we make will absolutely determine the quality of our lives. Let's take a young child in school. That child can choose to pay attention to the teacher, or can choose to daydream or goof off. What choice that child makes will impact the quality of his life. If that child decides to or makes a choice to do his homework rather than going outside to play, that will affect the quality of his life. If the child makes a choice to ask questions of his parents or his teacher about things he doesn't understand rather than faking it, these choices impact quality of life. Fast forward a little bit when it comes time for the child to make a choice about higher education. The choices they make are critically important, and the choices they have made are critically important. They can choose no college at all. They can choose a tech school or a trade school like beauty school, or to be a plumber or electrician. They could choose to go to a community college. They can choose Harvard. All of these choices will determine and affect where their life goes and the quality of that life. So there's a wide range of choices. There's a wide range of outcomes that will come about because of those choices. Now, I want to make it clear that there is nothing at all wrong with going to a trade school or community college. There's nothing wrong with not going to college at all. However, be clear, whatever choice you do make will have an impact on you. So after high school, or deciding no school at all, or community college, whatever, all these things will impact your ability to make a living. Community college, trade school, Harvard, whatever. If a student goes to school and they want to party hard, that's a choice they can make. But it's going to impact them once they get out, or if they get out. If a child or a student, a college student, decides to apply themselves and to work hard to get the best grades, to be at the top of their class, they're going to have options that these other kids don't have. Choices make the difference in the quality of your life. And these choices are going to stick with you forever. And it doesn't mean that you are stuck in a certain way of life, but you will be impacted by them. And if you've made bad choices in the past, you'll have to make better choices to overcome them and to get beyond things that have happened because of the knucklehead things you did in the past. So as far as a job or a career, all of these are choices. You could choose to work for anyone who will hire you, or you can choose to get yourself qualified enough to have an outstanding job or a career. And then once you're hired, what you do about that, choices you make then, can determine quality of life. You can decide to have advanced training. You could decide to practice your craft. You can decide to just do enough to get by. All of these things will affect you, and they will affect the quality of your life. So, things to think about as far as vocation, career, education, and all of that stuff. We'll get into relationships next. In our relationships, choices that we make determine the quality of our relationships. I already know a lot of people are going to think that, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and the other person is being a jerk, and that's determining the quality of my relationship. If I just had somebody to do what's right and to treat me like I deserve to be treated, then my relationship will be good. That is external referencing. That is putting all the power outside yourself. And when you do that, you give away your power. I'd like to talk about a couple of scenarios. I've seen a lot of young men are particularly susceptible to these type choices. They will meet a girl and hook up with this girl in very short order, move in, because they don't have a place of their own. And oftentimes younger women, frankly, can have a lot more responsibility than some young men. Happens a lot. Not all the time, but a lot. So a young man will hook up with this girl, move in with her before they've even really tested the relationship, because it's a place for him to stay. He doesn't have to stay at home with his mom and dad. And so, sure enough, they don't know each other. Tension starts rising. They get in a fight. And before you know it, the guy is faced with potentially being kicked out of the house. And so now his sense of manhood is threatened because he might not have a place to live. And rather than think about the foolish choice that he made of moving in with a girl he barely knows, he blames her, getting lost a little bit, rather than looking at the fact that he made the choice to move in with a girl he barely knows. I'm really lost. Rather than blaming himself, he blames the girl. How about that? Rather than looking at the poor choice he made and moving in with a girl he doesn't know, he blames the girl. And this is a result of foolish choices. What these young men should do is make sure that they do what they have to have a good enough job to be able to afford their own place. Then if you get in an argument with your girl, you don't have to worry about getting kicked out. It's really simple. And yet I see a lot of these young men do the same nonsense over and over again, sometimes even with the same girl. It's really crazy. On the other hand, you have some women, because while they may be responsible in certain ways, there are plenty of women who make foolish choices with other things. They might be doing their thing and holding down a good job and taking care of themselves, getting all nice and hot and attractive, you know, because they want to go out and meet a guy, be in a relationship. So what happens all too often is they will see the flashy dude. The dude with the great smile, the dude with the swag, the dude with the nice car, the dude that says all the right things, but he has no substance. But she doesn't see that right off the bat because he's saying the right things. So before you know it, she hooks up with the guy, and then shortly after that she has sex with the guy, which is a choice. She has unprotected sex with the guy, which is a choice. She gets pregnant, which is nature. She decides to keep the child and not have an abortion, which is a choice. And just as an aside, I am not with abortion at all, but that's another show. Still, to keep a child is a choice. And so now, because she didn't find out who it is that she was laying with, and I believe you certainly can tell if a man will be a great father. I think it's within the realm of any intelligent woman, and there's plenty out women, any intelligent woman, to make a good assessment about whether a man will be a good father. But they get caught up in the hype. They get caught up in the pretty words. They get caught up in the flash. And they wind up being a single parent. They wind up having to chase a guy around for child support. And the quality of their life is greatly diminished. Now, granted, there are plenty of single mothers who are doing a great job for their children. But it would be so much easier, so much better if that child had a great father in its life in addition to a great mother. These things are all a result of choices that we make. Yeah! We can determine whatever we want our lives to be. It's a matter simply of choice. So it all comes down to this. We having a hard time here. It comes down to this. Our responses will determine exactly what the quality of our lives are. Yeah. No matter where we are in life, no matter who we are all presented with many opportunities to choose throughout the span of our lives. And the quality of those choices determines where we'll get to. No matter who you are, no matter what your circumstances are, you can make choices that empower you to create the life that you want. No matter what life throws at you, no matter what circumstances, no matter what force of nature hits you, nothing outside of you can determine the quality of your life. Only you can do that. And you can do it by being responsible, by choosing responses to situations, circumstances, people, events. Choose a response that serves you well and moves you closer to the life that you want to have. It's an awesome power that we all have within our grasp, and I want you to use that power well. Well, here we are at the end of a show where I've stumbled around quite a bit. I appreciate you all for hanging in there with me. And you know what it is, at the end of every show, we got to get our drinky drink on. And you know, I always want to hear from you folks. I've heard some great comments. I've heard a couple of suggestions. I appreciate it all. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, want to be a guest on the show, holler at me, bam! KLHOUD1 at Comcast.net. Get at me. If you have a comment you want read on the air, please give it to me. I will read it as long as it's respectable. I won't read any swear words. So the drink is Captain KLH. What? It's a gift I got a couple of years ago. Good thing is that good rum doesn't go bad. So pour a little bit of that. May I live to be 100 years, and may you live to be 100 years in a day. Peace. See you next week.